What is happening, AJ Gaming Dude here, and I'm going to be talking about what the next steps are for Microsoft and Xbox, because the funny thing is that they've now talked about what they are going to be doing as far as like what that news is going to be. So last week, Phil Spencer did say that he was going to essentially say next week we're going to be providing like sort of a presentation to see, like, to show what the future of like Xbox kind of looks like. And so with all of the rumors that have been swirling around, especially about Xbox exclusives coming to PS5 and Switch, I'm wanting to ask everyone, are you looking forward to this particular event? Because it's been put on a Thursday, I think it was, and on the official Xbox podcast specifically. So it's interesting to see that he's going to be doing it in podcast form instead of like any sort of showcase or something like that. And you might think, why would I ever think of it being like as a showcase? Because the reason why I personally thought that was similar to like how you give information out to investors. That's usually a showcase in and of itself, not necessarily a showcase of games, but a showcase to the investors, the real customers of any company, especially when they're publicly traded like Microsoft is. So with Xbox being under the Microsoft umbrella, it felt like that made sense, but it looks like in most ways our expectations have kind of, or at least my expectations have certainly been kind of shifted. So now for them to actually do it in a podcast form, either they have something to talk about and there is a lot of it, because podcasts can run for as short as like half an hour to as much as like 3 hours. Hell, I just like listened to a 3-hour podcast just before I kind of started recording this. So there can be a lot of something in there, and it would be interesting to see just what that information is, how it's being presented, especially if it's in like a podcast style, and what does that kind of mean for us as gamers, regardless of whether we're on the Xbox side or whether we're on the PlayStation and Switch side. Again, some games do make more sense than others, though it has been claimed, or rather the guy who was throwing around the rumors of Hi-Fi Rush coming to other platforms, this same person did say specifically that Starfield would not be coming to the PS5. And so with that being said, while specifying that Starfield is not coming to PS5, they didn't shoot down every single possible rumor. So there is still that idea of Hi-Fi Rush coming to other platforms, as well as Sea of Thieves, though that again kind of like Sea of Thieves does make sense due to it just kind of being like more of a multiplayer type thing. Though for some reason Starfield, the one that makes the most sense to come to other platforms, kind of isn't going to. So that's okay, fair enough. But on the regarding Gears, that's still very much up in the air as well. Beyond that, no other specific games have been mentioned across the rumors, though people are suggesting Halo, but that seems very, very out there. Like, if the rumors are to be believed, that Starfield was what at one point considered to be a game that will go multi-platform, but then pulled away from that being a thing that's happening, it really wouldn't be surprising that they, like something like Halo, would then not even be touched. If Starfield is not going to be coming through, then for sure Halo will not be there either. So again, that's just kind of like an interesting kind of read that I had. Difficult to kind of make out again what's going to be happening from here moving forward. So I am definitely going to be keeping my eyes and ears, my eyes peeled and my ears crossed, whatever you want to call it, perched, or rather, again, whatever verb you want to use for keeping your ear out, to see actually what's going to happen. Like, what is this podcast going to be? How long is it going to be? What's going to be talked about? Because I'm for sure going to listen to it. Now, whether or not they're actually drumming up a lot of marketing for this specific episode, I'm not too sure why. Xbox has usually been quite, again, as many people say, reactionary to issues and concerns that come up in the Xbox community, and it genuinely is surprising to see just how much vitriol is especially going around with these sets of rumors. Again, it's not like we haven't seen this before, but never has the internet also been so very connected and disconnected at the exact same time. Connected because anyone can talk to each other, but disconnected by the way that everyone is in their own space on the internet, because the internet is such a humongous thing that exists, and you can only visit so much of the internet before you either feel disgust or hate for the fellow human being. And I'm talking very much about things like the furry community, just to kind of start off with, as there are many other things that are far worse than that, but I digress. I could probably make a video on that just on its own. But kind of like moving back to the whole idea of Microsoft's not even Microsoft, the Xbox presentation that's coming up, I would be remiss not to say whether I think Satya Nadella might be on that podcast as well. It'll be interesting to see if he was on there. That would be genuinely fascinating. But I think with Xbox buying Activision Blizzard especially, they are kind of making the same mistakes that Embracer made, where Embracer bought way too much. The deal with Sabi Games, which was the Saudi Arabia Crown Prince, Prince's investment fund, effectively. I don't know how else you would describe it, but when that deal completely shattered, so many people lost their jobs. So many studios have shut down, and so many games have been cancelled as a result. I'm glad that we did manage to get a couple of those, like a SpongeBob remaster for Battle for Bikini Bottom, and also we got SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake as well, both on PS4 and PS5 versions. But effectively, if Microsoft kept buying companies over and over again, they would effectively need to do the exact same thing that Embracer is doing, where you have way too many people, and way too many people need to lose their jobs in order to keep the company functioning, and in order to kind of try and attempt to earn a profit from it. But the thing is that it already looks like Microsoft, or rather Xbox, does not know what they're doing with Activision Blizzard, because 1,900 people have lost their jobs from that company. And so if there is a lot of overlap between roles, ideally you want to try and keep people in those roles rather than merge it to become a single entity. Kind of keep that space, like keep the Activision Blizzard space separate from Xbox proper. So Xbox proper would be all of the first party stuff that we know and love, and then we've got Bethesda in its own arm, and Activision Blizzard under another arm. So given like all of the choices and everything that's been done, Xbox would not be here without Phil Spencer, especially after the mess ups that was made by Don Matrick and his era, and the fact that one presentation back in was it E3 2013, when they announced that when Xbox did their presentation, and then when PlayStation did their presentation, how much of a dunk that was against Xbox and the future of Xbox ultimately. Because it's funny how the I want to say pretty much the PlayStation 4 sold 2-1 against the Xbox One, and somehow the Xbox Series consoles is doing worse than the Xbox One consoles. So you gotta wonder that, like, at this point, around 60% of the of all of the current gen consoles that are out there that have been purchased have got to be PlayStation at this point, because Xbox has never been selling particularly well in any generation. I mean, So Xbox joined the PS2 in that particular war. The PS2 obviously one of the best selling consoles of all time, and is still yet to be topped even to this day, over 20 years later. And then we've got the PS3, which was actually losing to the Xbox 360. But then the 360, I don't know if it was the 360's they weren't selling that much near the end, or PlayStation 3 skyrocketed in sales so much that they actually caught up to the 360 despite losing immensely during the whole period, especially with the terrible presentation from, I want to say 2005, I think it was, where you had to have at least 2 jobs in order to afford a PS3, and then it dropped at the price of $599.99, so $600 USD right there. And now Xbox was very much on the losing end with the Xbox One generation with the PS4, where the PS4 sold more than double. I think it was like 52 mil to 107 mil or something like that. So 52 mil on the Xbox side, 107 mil on the PlayStation side, and now somehow the series consoles, which are fairly decent and impeccable consoles, just not having enough games, they are already losing to 2-1 in sales as of this current generation, given the analytics that were provided by Circana, previously known as MPD Group, who kind of measure the sales of the industry on a monthly basis, and sometimes also gives annual summaries as well. So I figured I'll talk about not only the fact that there's actually going to be a presentation that's going to be happening on Thursday, which, not even a presentation, just a podcast on Thursday when it releases, and talking about effectively what the future of Xbox is going to be, but also just to give a bit of a history lesson that Xbox has never done all that well in the console space, and that PlayStation, no matter how badly they screwed up the PS3 era, still puts Xbox, gives Xbox a good serving of humble pie, I feel like, every single time, especially when you look at the sales of consoles throughout the history of time, and the fact that Nintendo has always either been at the top of their game, with the exception of the Wii U. The Wii was selling astronomical, but never truly hit the final heights of a PS2. The Wii U was a massive failure, and we thought that, maybe they were gonna, Nintendo was gonna go full third party at that point. But no, the full-on turnaround with the Switch in 2017, absolutely immaculate. And we learned some really good lessons about how the CEO of Nintendo took a pay cut in order to make up for the underselling, of the Wii U, effectively. So there's a lot of interesting history with the console race and everything else in between, but I figured that it was worth mentioning for sure. But let me know what you guys think about this video in the comments below, your thoughts on what's going to be happening at the Microsoft in that podcast, because I feel like there's going to be a lot going on, though I don't believe there's going to be any sort of shadow drop, because apparently people do kind of think that there might be something there. Again, difficult to really be able to think that might be the most ideal time to drop anything, to be honest. But yeah, like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for 200 subs by the end of the year, and I do want my videos to go out to more people, so hopefully this will also provide a bit more of an insightful history, a little bit into the consoles, the console war, so to speak, especially from the perspective of Xbox. Albeit that it's very, short, summarized, and rushed through a little bit, and kind of off the top of my head, so I don't have exact numbers, but, just that sort of idea of just blurting out information. But, yeah, so with all of that said and done, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.